partnerships with Tickets for Kids, Free Bikes for Kids, Ardent Outdoor Group, and Adam Thielen Foundation Charity. These experiential activities empowered students inside and outside of their traditional school days with non-traditional experiences. Other relevant work experiences include being a floral box builder, social media marketer for wholesale wicker baskets, and he is also a two-time Iraq War veteran who served 7 years in the Minnesota Army National Guard. Please welcome Karl Erickson.
All right, well, much like all of us, we all wear a variety of different hats on a day-to-day basis. Some of us are working with schools, some of us are working with clients or businesses or other places. And so I wear a variety of hats, so thank you for the introduction. When I was teaching at Higher Ground Academy, I was teaching a student population that was primarily Somali East African based, students new to arrivals to the country. And I found that a lot of them really wanted to learn and experience a lot of other things. And so obviously it talked about writing the grant to the DNR. So with that DNR grant, I was able to get equipment. And that was in the winter of 2020, right before the pandemic. I took 500 of my students ice fishing on Como Lake. And a lot of these guys were first timers. Well, some of them had gone years before when I partnered with other groups. So I wrote a grant with them. The Tickets for Kids charity, I partnered with them and took over 400, 500 of my students to Twins games, Timberwolves games they would never go to as part of the school day or after school. I taught physical education my first 3 years at a school without a gymnasium. So I had to take 5 field trips a day, every day, to the rec center about a half mile away. And so that was a challenge in itself. And then in my 4th year, we moved into a building that had a gymnasium, but I didn't have any equipment. And so I reached out to Adam Thielen of his foundation. I said, and I had their director come out and see that my gym lockers and all my supply was duct taped and random. And they donated enough money to buy brand new PE equipment for the whole school. And I was able to provide lessons with topics they'd never considered: floor hockey, cornhole, other things. But then before I could even use that equipment, the pandemic shut everything down. It all sat in boxes, and it sat there for a while until the kids were able to come back. And then later in 2020, I put out an ad looking for anybody else getting rid of a ping pong table. Because a lot of people get them and they're great for a week or a day, and then they end up being laundry tables, right? Well, then I took those and I brought those to my school, a dozen of them. I found a dozen of them. People gave me a dozen ping pong tables so that when the kids could come back to gym, they could put on a mask and play socially distant ping pong, right? You have weird rules for the pandemic, so you have to have weird accommodations. So we made that work, okay? But when people read the ad, it just said, PE teacher looking for ping pong tables. Anybody has one, I'd love to take it. And then I drove anywhere from Apple Valley to Isanti, New Hope, anywhere in between to haul those to school, so we had some nice equipment. And then I'm trying to think what else. I was always partnering with other people, because collaboration, and many of you already lived enough life to know that nothing you do is done by yourself. A lot of these grants I'm writing myself, but a lot of the facilitation of getting other staff to help with it, or other partners, nonprofits, it all takes collaboration. And so, 2 years ago, I transitioned to Elpis. And what we do at Elpis is, actually, you know what, before I even go into it, I'm just gonna play a quick video so that, to introduce this. Pull this up.
We love technology around here.
It never works when you need it, and it always works when you don't need it to. I don't know how there's a way.
Can you get rid of the Carry 11 on top, maybe would help.
That little pop up.
I don't know if that's it, but
I'm not even hearing anything up on the computer.
no.
Interesting.
And the volume button is all the way up,
This one's all the way up, and then
and that one is too.
Yep.
Weird.
Click on the display audio on the right hand side above that and see if you can change.
There you go.
So it might be coming out of the computer, but
not long after our visit, both Tim and Keith with their shop skills to work as the newest employees of the Keller Benz Group. A kind of personal product. Meeting their friends and future. Point Carolyn St. Paul.
So that's kind of, I mean, I know the audio might not have been there for everybody, but at Elpis, we are a job training and career readiness workforce development nonprofit that works with homeless, impacted, and at-risk young adults that get to come work with us. They get a paid internship for 3 months, and they can either work in woodworking on the wood side with me. We have the screen printing and the embroidery where we can make apparel. We make apparel for a lot of other nonprofits, park programs, youth programs. And then we have the sewing internship where they learn how to and I don't know the terminology, but like thread the bobbin and all these other terms to make handbags out of burlap sacks that the coffee roasters are going to throw away. And so on my side with the wood shop, when I started at Elpis, a lot of the workshops we did were primarily with Minneapolis parks and a lot of the park programs. And I emailed 400 teachers across the Twin Cities, and I was like, hey, if you could have a free woodworking workshop for your classroom about birds, would you be interested? And not every teacher took that email and went, yeah, that sounds great. Some just kind of discarded it. Like, who's offering me free stuff? That's not normal. But the ones that did, I put their school up on the wish list of how many kids they had, and then I started reaching out. And I'm obviously with my service connection, I'm a member of the Minneapolis Uptown VFW, and so I initially asked them if they would sponsor 100 kids at the school that I had just quit from, the higher ground. I went right back to the building I just walked away from, and they sponsored it. And then I came back to them in December, and I was going to ask for some more for some other schools. And then they sponsored like 1,000 kids at any school in Minneapolis and inner city. So, so that got the project running. And now we're almost 2 years into it. We've made 100 school visits and had over 7,000 fourth graders in a classroom learn how to use hammers, drills, to build a bird feeder. I do a backyard bird lesson. We go over the goldfinches, the chickadees, the orioles, a bunch of birds, and play the sounds and show the kids where they can find the DNR has an app, a link where you can look at a poster and click on a bird and they'll play that sound. And so I tell the kids, you can play the sounds out in the backyard and the birds might come and say, what's up, bro? You know, they might come check out your yard and they'll come see your bird feeder. So I've been really busy with that. It's been 100% of the teachers that we've visited have said that they would like that to be an annual tradition for their classroom, especially because there's no cost barriers. I've had BFWs, Legions, Northern Tap House in Plymouth has helped with a few schools. I've had a contractor sponsor 1,000 kids out in the Osseo School District. And so wherever I have the collaborating funding source and partner is how I get the schools involved. And obviously, your student got to build with us last year. And on the backside of that, the grant I wrote. So the grant I wrote in when I was a teacher was to the DNR's No Child Left Inside, and that was for equipment. So for ice fishing. So I have 5 double wide pop-up fish houses, fish finders, heaters, augers. I have all that equipment in, and so I have the gear, and so I asked teachers that I'm doing these bird feeder workshops with, when I surveyed kids from across the Twin Cities in 4th grade about ice fishing, doesn't matter if they live in Maple Grove, Golden Valley, Plymouth, St. Paul, 70 to 90% of the kids have never gone ice fishing. And when I asked the kids if they would like that as a future field trip, 80 to 90% were like yes. And then when I asked the teachers if you could get your kids out for a 1-hour ice fishing experience, and I say 1 hour because after an hour of ice fishing for a 9-year-old, they're either catching fish and they don't want to leave, or they're throwing snowballs and it's time to go anyway. And so for that, because I had the data that says that 90% of the teachers wanted to get their kids ice fishing if it didn't have any cost barriers and it was only for an hour, I have a grant that, I have actually 2 grants this coming winter to attempt to run 30 days for 10,000 kids across the Twin Cities schools. And that sounds like chaos, and I mean, some of us thrive in chaos. Give me more chaos, because that means great things are happening, right? So for ice fishing, if I'm just gonna kind of lay it out there for you, let's imagine each of these tables is a fish house, and for those four fish houses, I'm hosting 1 class. Well, with me and Elpis, we can host, let's say, 1 class. And then I'm working in St. Paul. The other grant I have is with St. Paul Police and the Police Activities League. Now, if they set up next to me with their houses, they can host a class with 4 of their houses, okay? And I'm talking to Ray Ruiz from Baztec, Minnesota. It's a nonprofit Spanish-speaking fishing organization, and he's got gear and houses, and I'm trying to get him involved. I'm trying to get him some funding. Also, Matt Wilkie with the Art and Outdoor Group is another nonprofit that's partnered with me at Higher Ground before I had my own equipment. And so as you start looking at, okay, I've got a class here, 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 that's 100 kids in 1 hour. And if you rotate that 4 times in a day, that's 400 kids. And if you just do that for 25 days, that's 10,000 kids. The logic, the math is there, the chaos is going to be amazing. Now, I need cold weather for this to work, because last year I had raised some of the grants and the funding, and I had to cancel all of that because we didn't have a winter. We had the warmest temperature in 140 years or something. It was like 1870 or 1880 something. So while I'm working on these workshops and I'm getting close to finishing the 10,000 kids that have participated, I might finish that by December, and then it'll parlay into a post-winter break of all these ice fishing activities. And I'm talking with Nick Sacco at 3 Rivers Parks. He's their main fishing coordinator guy. I'm talking to Peter Yager. He's the nature-based guy out of Minneapolis Parks. And I'm talking with Mario Trevelin with the Department of Natural Resources. So I'm collaborating and I'm having Zooms and meetings, and I'm trying to get more people involved because it's a heavy lift to bring all that gear. I mean, I don't have a snowmobile, I don't have a 4-wheeler. I'm just putting it on sleds and walking it out there with my team. So that's a lot of things. But I'm hoping to get more of the students these chances, because obviously the data says that kids are not out in nature. They're not watching. Oh, on the bird feeder data, before the workshop, 80% of the kids said they did not currently watch birds with family, and then after the workshop, 80+% said they were going to put their bird feeder up and watch for birds. So we're turning the narrative on its head, like, no, this is really going to happen. Kids are going to be stewards for the birds. Kids are going to get opportunity, and I think with those opportunities comes growth. And like one of the teachers in, actually I think it was a Golden Valley teacher last year, they had said that was when the kid was building their bird feeder, they said that was the first time they saw their kid smile all year, which is crazy. Because every kid succeeds. I tell every kid at the end, like, you are a success, and I hand them their bird feeder because I, get it all put together. And so that's the energy I do. But for these kids in the program here, obviously this is Tim right here in the front, and then in the back is Kiva, and Jesus still had another year of high school left. But they're getting meaningful career skills in our building as I'm mentoring them on how to fabricate all these things, how to use tools, table saws, routers, drill presses, so that
if they show up in our program and do a great job, I'll call Keller, I'll call another company, or I had a home builder up in Sterling Custom Homes last year. He sponsored a bunch of kids in the birdfeeder project in schools, but then he also hired an intern to help the hold on, mute. So as the interns in our program are there, we're also bringing in speakers to talk about financial literacy. How do you buy a car? How do you buy a house? How do you have a bank account? We bring in HR representatives to do some practice mock interviews. Because if you're a young adult, and let's say just for an example, your parent made a choice and ended up in jail, or your parent got onto some drugs or connected to some things, and now your parents aren't there. And as a young adult, and you don't have a fallback plan, life's gonna be pretty tough. Well, we're kind of that medium ground, and so we work with social workers from other alternative high schools, from some of the shelters, and some of the other nonprofit serving groups to get interns that, on my side, because we're doing so much of the fabricating and the measuring and the cutting and all those things, those are great carpentry skills, home building. You could go work in manufacturing, home building, something like that. But currently our pace for the workshops is we're running about 180 youth woodworking workshops in a year for about 8,000 students or kids somewhere. And so we're working with kids every day, and I've had some of the interns get hired with childcare programs and park and rec youth programs, because once you start working with kids, and some of us are former teachers, it's fun being around optimistic young people that want to do great things. And so some of the interns in my program are finding that out as they're going out interfacing with all the kids in the community, at parks, at schools, at anywhere else. And then the other thing that I guess I forgot to mention is that we work with, Keller Fence and a few other fence contractors. All of the youth woodworking programs we do are taking throwaway cedar fence boards, either from someone's old gray fence that fell over, or a person that built a 4-foot fence and there's a 2-foot cutoff. We are taking all of their waste cedar fence boards and fabricating them into all the kits that the kids build. So we're probably preventing somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000-6,000 cedar fence boards from going to a landfill in a given year. And that's just a byproduct of the efforts my interns are making, of the coordinating and the collaborating, having a collaborative teacher at Hopkins at Meadowbrook up the street. Actually tomorrow, if anybody wants a community service opportunity, I can get you a time. We're gonna be at Meadowbrook Elementary tomorrow helping 134th graders build bird feeders. Now, not all at once, but we're gonna have a class at a time come into the room, and I'll have all the jigs, hammers, kits all set out. And it's really about just showing kids how to, hey, put your pieces here on this block and build your roof. Okay, got your roof done. Now here, build this here. And it's just, the more adults that are in the room, the better it works. So if anybody wants to talk about that after the meeting, that's fine. That's just right, that's pretty close here. We've been there last year and this year, and their teachers are overly collaborative. Like I said, not every teacher responded, and I feel bad because those students are the ones that are missing out. Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of the fundraising, a lot of the networking, a lot of the coordinating, driving to these programs, doing a lot of that stuff, and it takes a lot of people being aware of it. And like, hey, I know a company that would sponsor some of the plexiglass, or I know someone that has extra bird seed you could get, because we're taking these big 50-pound bags of seed and breaking them up into little bags so every kid goes home with some bird seed. We're buying plexiglass, iron rods, we're buying, there's some cost in there, and our time is a huge thing. We put a lot of time into this. I mean, this is my full-time thing to get interns in my program some skills, and then the byproduct of their efforts, having kids succeed all over the place. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I talk really fast, and that's just because that's my brain. It fires at that pace right now. So if you're like 3 words back, you're not alone. What do you got?
So I'm trying to understand the structure. So you
Sure.
have interns who are recent high school graduates, or?
It's an age window of 16 to 24-ish.
Okay.
Some are in alternative high schools still working towards their diploma or their GED. Some are in alternative education programs, or are done with their GED and high school diploma and haven't really gained traction with a career field, or haven't decided what they're going to do. Obviously, I'm assuming everyone in the room has a place to put their head at night, and that's not true for everyone. So sometimes that in itself is a problem when it comes to your workforce readiness. But we try to do a lot of the mentorship, connect resources. Hey, we know a person at this shelter with they have apartments that you can apply for, and we try to be the conduit that gets them the services that they need, but also some job skills and some confidence in what they can do with us. Typically, an intern in our program works about 20 hours a week. It's not a full-time thing, and that allows for some of the other things they want to do if they want to take driver's ed at night or in the morning. So yeah, kind of, it's that age range. Obviously, the key thing for a lot of them is that their parents aren't necessarily a factor, and so that's where I'm kind of like their parent, their uncle, trying to, hey, let's figure this out. What's your question?
So an internship with your group is about how long?
It's 12 weeks, and so on my side, it's the wood shop where we're doing, and we make Adirondack chairs. We have things on our website that people can buy, bird feeders, chairs, some other stuff. So that's one of them, and then we also have screen printing and embroidery, where the interns are learning how to set the screens right and put the apparel on there and design and create that. Because there's a lot of screen printing and embroidery opportunities across the Twin Cities to do. If you get enough skills here, we can refer an intern to another one, and then the sewing one with the throwaway burlap bags. So if an intern wants to get into apparel, like creating apparel, sewing up shirts, or making tailoring or something like that, there's an opportunity from the skills they pick up in the sewing lab to expand those in another place in space.
And then what's the relationship between that and the programs you're doing in the schools with kids? Is it a separate thing, or do the interns help with the programs in the schools, or?
So anybody on my wood team, they're helping prepare all those materials in the shop. So like a normal week, and I say no week is the same, but a normal week, Monday, the interns aren't there, because it's kind of a prep day for me, trying to get some emails and things coordinated. We have a staff meeting, we talk about the plan for the week and how interns are doing and those things. And then Tuesdays is a training day, so we usually provide a lunch for the interns, kind of like here today, and they get to have a meal, and we bring in a speaker. Could be could be somebody from Department of Transportation talking about transportation careers, could be the banking person or the home buying person or the HR person. So Tuesday's kind of a training day around lunchtime, so they're kind of having lunch and hearing the speaker and learning things. And then if there's time after that, they'll come back to the shop and kind of get the materials prepared for the day. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I try to book workshops, sometimes on weekends if there's an event or something. And sometimes the interns want to come and work on a weekend. Some are hungry for hours, or like, give me all the hours you can get, Carl. I want whatever you can give me. And I'm like, that's awesome. That means when I show you the calendar of events, as long as you're committed, I know I've got at least one person. Because there's been times, like last year when I went to Neal Elementary, Neal's right over here. Robbinsdale Schools. We had a big blizzard in April. I don't know if everybody remembers that. But my interns that are bus and transit dependent, with all the snow, could never make it to the shop in time to get there. So I went to the school solo with all the jigs and all the gear. And then one of the interns said she was going to Uber, and so she Ubered from somewhere in St. Paul and got out there eventually. But it was just me and then the teacher and a few staff getting through it. So I try not to let teachers down. I hate committing to something and then not being there for them. I mean, I'm a person of my word. If I say I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up. Even getting this date on the calendar was a challenge, but we went back and forth a few times just because I have so many things going on. But I appreciate that you brought me in. I want more people to know what we're doing, because it takes, you might know someone that knows somebody that knows somebody, or, I know maybe somebody here's a billionaire. If you are, I'd love to have another meeting separate, but I got enough ideas you could fund. But no, I mean, I want to get around and get more people involved, especially like the ice fishing program. That's going to take a ton of people being out at the lake. I mean, it's all coordination. It's like a giant puzzle. Like, I know we like putting up the puzzle, we lay out our edge pieces, and then we work from the edges in. Well, sometimes I don't have the edge pieces, but I'm still working my way through it. So it's kind of a fun thing. I'm not sure if anybody this week is available on Thursday. So we're having our annual fundraiser for Elpis. Just coincidentally, it's this week. It's like a perfect place to plug it. I mean, but we're going to have at the Uptown VFW on Lyndale Avenue, we're going to have, it's called Shirts, Birds, and Brew. And so for your ticket price, we're going to have a taco bar. We're going to have an experiential thing. So you'll get to build a bird feeder with us. You get to screen print a shirt. And then have a beverage if that's your thing. And then kind of learn more about our some of our other partners. You'll be able to meet our team. We might have an intern or two there. But that's this Thursday. I have some hand flyers I'll give to you, each of you. Something to consider. If any of you know any companies looking for apparel to be made, or embroidered hats or shirts, I mean, for us, those aren't. We're not making money on those shirts. We're making outcomes. Those are, a lot of people don't think about that. That work shirt you got. Well, we just went to custom make and we ordered it. Well, if you order from Elpis, you know that shirt is give a kid an opportunity to learn something and get some skills and get some people in their corner. So just keep that in mind. So I've got some stuff I can hand out to each of you. I didn't know how many there were here today and are going to be here, so I brought 12, and it looks like we've got 9, so that's perfect. I have extras for next time. What's your thought?
Karl, is it common for an intern to do the workshopping program and then do the sewing program and then kind of go through all of the offerings, or is it more typical that they pick one?
So we used to have kind of a split format where you get 6 weeks on one side and 6 weeks on the other side, because sewing was that's relatively new program for ours. That only started within the last year and a half-ish. It wasn't there when I got going, but they used to get the chance to try both. And sometimes what would happen is if you're on the screen printing side, you're not leaving the shop. You're in there making apparel all day with you got the big, it looks like a big Quiznos sandwich toaster, but that's where we bake the ink. So it's hot in there, it's a tough thing, and so a lot of them would say, I want to go back to woodworking because we're out and about, we're having fun in the community. And so now when we are interviewing our interns, because we don't just take anybody and everybody, we got to find a career path for you. So when you come see when they come and tour with us, they see the sewing, they see the screen printing and some of the outcomes that can come of it. They see my side. And I mean, obviously I'm starting to slow down on the speech here a little bit, but when I'm talking to them, I'm hyping everyone up because I want more interns on my team because it makes the lift a little lighter when we're carrying tubs of gear in and rolling things in and out. But we try to find a career path that they're interested in and then tie their internship in a way, like if someone was to our building, one of the interns, and said, I'm really interested in IT and computers, I'd say, well, this isn't probably the place for you to take an internship. And we know of, there's a couple other nonprofits that we can refer them to, hey, go check out that one and see if you can get some IT skills there. But we want to tailor it to the career they're interested in, not just force them into something, because if you're in a place that you don't want to be and there's not an outcome there that you care about, you're not going to try that hard. It's not something you're passionate about. So we really want to find people that are seeing, kind of showing them the path, like, hey, in our shop, here's what you can do. Here's what Tim and Kiva, they got hired over here, and I'd love to refer you if you do a great job to this other company, but you got to get through it. So we try to not just force them on stuff. But sometimes they're not a good fit, and they'll find out, they came in, thought they wanted to get all sawdusty and make a bunch of stuff, and then they're like, I want something a little different. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we can find, or can we get you into another program somewhere else? Sometimes our interns have gone from like us to urban boat builders. They're like a building away from us. We're on University in Vandalia, so we're just right across the street from Planned Parenthood and the Dubliner Irish Bar or something. We're right on University. So, any other thoughts, questions, ideas? What do you got?
I didn't catch what the interns make per hour.
So that depends upon, because a lot of our interns are funded by grants, and so some of the interns in our program, so like Minneapolis has Step Up, and St. Paul has Right Track, which are city-sponsored jobs. And so we'll get some from the Right Track program in the summertime, or in the school year too, but a lot of times in the summer because they're high school kids. And the Right Track program might only pay whatever the city's minimum, $13 an hour or something. But then on some of the other ones might be coming from Hired, a referral from the Hired program, and they might be getting 18. It kind of depends. It's entry-level wages. It's nothing like, if they do great enough, we might be able to give them more money because they've done a good job, or if we're at a shortage of staffing. Elpis itself, as a regular organization, not interns, we are only about, I want to say nine staff total. There's our director, Paul, who was on the video. I run the woodworking. Dustin runs screen printing. Phil is our business development and screen printing. And then we have Jan, who's a career counselor. Lachey, who's a peer advocate. Valentina, who is kind of our regular workshop facilitator. And then we have a shipping and receiving person. Yeah, there's only like 9 of us. And then in a given year, we'll bring in between 30 and 40 interns because they're there for a quarter, they're there for 12 weeks. And so once their internship is ending, we start doing our outreach to other organizations that might have someone looking for a job or looking for job skills. So that's kind of our staff. We're a small team. We have a small footprint in the building, but we have a lot of impact in the community, which is super fun to see and execute and be a part of it. I mean, when I was teaching physical education, I was limited by the 4 walls of the gymnasium and then the 4 walls of the school, well, now that I'm not in education as a teacher, there's no left and right limit to how many schools I can partner with to do special things, provided I have enough collaborating funding sources and volunteers and everything else. So it's all collaboration. Like there's nothing, can't do it by yourself. You know, some of us get bonus days. I know we talk about wearing other hats. Obviously, I wear a hat. I still wear this hat once a month at the Uptown BFW, but I was in Iraq for 2 different deployments on my first tour. If any of you are familiar with the Minnesota National Guard and the history over the last 20 years, I was part of the 1st Brigade that got extended in country as part of the surge. So my first deployment was 23 months long, you know, and on that deployment, we obviously got extended, and in our extension, we started moving to other parts of, I was out in Anbar, kind of by, so if anybody knows Iraq, there's Baghdad, which is the big city hub, and you can take the Euphrates River out west, there's Fallujah and Ramadi. Well, I was between both Fallujah and Ramadi there's a lake there, Lake Habadia. Anyways, we were there for the most of our deployment, and then they started sending us to Fallujah and Ramadi for these other missions in the extension. And my team leader said, "Hey, take the day off today. I got a lieutenant coming out and a major. You can stay back at base. You might be part of the quick reaction." And he took a IED as a driver in a Humvee that I would have drove. So I'm here, and he's not. But we got bonus days, so what can we do with them? So that's kind of my background on the military side. So I still wear the hat.
But I'm gonna get you guys some paperwork. I don't want to spam you, but that's how I have to get everything out to everybody so we know what we're doing. If anybody has kids or grandkids, on October 12th, there's the Woodworkers Expo at the State Fairgrounds. We're gonna be down there doing a bird feeder build, so if you want to bring your kid there, it doesn't cost anything to go. The Shirts, Birds, and Brew is our fundraiser. That's coming up this week. So yeah, we're hoping to make a difference for the kids in our program. Some of them it's really working out really well, and they're getting the places they want to go. But I wish I could say 100% of the young adults I work with were a good story that I could share. But that's not how life goes. Life doesn't go your way 100% of the time. So we try to do our best. And you know, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but if they're not thirsty, it's not going to happen for them. So, any other thoughts, ideas, or what are you thinking?
If people have more questions, do you have a few minutes afterwards?
Yeah, I'm here for you. I mean, you're here for me. I think this is all a collaborative thing. But
Well, give them a round of
Yeah.
applause.